Good evening. Thank you very much for joining us here on Urban Debate on Mirror Now. I am Hina Gambhir. Today, I want to narrate to you an incident that happened this morning. Today morning, while entering my office after greeting a colleague, I casually asked him, "Kya chal raha hai?" His cryptic, loaded in sarcasm reply was, "Ask me kya chal raha hai? Zameen pe para chad raha hai aur fuel station par petrol aur diesel ka daam." Means the mercury is rising and so are the prices of fuel. Well, in a topsy-turvy world where nothing stays the same, there are some painful normals here to stay in India, like a daily rise in fuel prices. Prices of petrol and diesel have risen 9 times in the last 10 days by almost 6 rupees and 40 paise per litre across India. We have discussed it. Yes, it is impacting each one of us. But my colleague gave me a back-of-the-envelope quick calculation of the real impact on his monthly budget. Now, he drives a motorcycle to go to office every single day and for his weekend outings. He travels for around 50 kilometers every day. In Delhi's jams, he gets a mileage of about 50 kilometers to a litre, which means about 10 litres of petrol lasts him 10 days. On March 31st last year, 10 litres of petrol in Delhi was costing 905 rupees. Hence, his monthly burden was around 2,715 rupees. And today, on March 31st, the cost of 10 litres of petrol in Delhi is 1,018 rupees. So the monthly burden is around 3,054 rupees. Now, which is roughly an increase of about 12% in the monthly fuel cost. Now, this story, viewers, replicates across 37 million motorcycle users in India. For almost 30 crore private four-wheeler owners, this burden is even heavier. Then, rise in fuel cost means more expensive cooking gas. Higher freight charges for our grains, vegetables and other expensive, other goods. Expensive commuting by buses is also another impact that we all are facing today. The cumulative impact of several hikes is huge. Well, the government says fuel prices are rising as there has been a sharp rise in crude price due to prevailing situation in Ukraine. For around 4 months during the election season, fuel prices remained unchanged despite a rise in crude prices. In October 2021, crude price was around $80 a barrel. Now it is over $100 per barrel. In fact, it has even touched $139 a barrel because of the Ukraine crisis. Now, sensing a political opportunity, the Congress party started an agitation against Mehengai today. To be in sync with the Aam Aadmi's misery, the protest was given an innovative touch. Its leaders were seen worshipping LPG cylinders. Netas, including Rahul Gandhi, staged a dharna in the national capital, mocked the centre by placing an overturned motorbike and cooking gas cylinders at the protest site. The Grand Old Party is demanding a rollback. In a retaliatory move, the BJP netas are questioning the high VAT in Congress-ruled governments. Bottom line is, while politicians bicker, middle class suffers. Why the government, despite hike in protest, is reluctant to provide relief? Is there relief possible? Or fuel will stay on fire and budgets will keep getting ravaged by those fires? That's our big focus on Urban Debate this evening. Before I go across to my guests, listen in to what the people have to say. What is it that the opposition leaders had to say today?
How will you reach to the people, common man?
I think the purpose of protests like this is precisely to raise the consciousness of everybody that this is an issue the government can do something about. When international prices were extremely low, way back when they first came to power in 2014, they still charged us a lot through their taxes. Now that international prices are high, they're blaming international prices. The truth is that when you pay 101 rupees at the petrol pump, 52 of those rupees are going to governments and taxes. So let them try and reduce that.
पिछले 10 दिन में 9 बार पेट्रोल और डीजल के प्राइसेस बढ़ाए गए हैं और इसकी चोट डायरेक्टली सबसे गरीब मिडिल क्लास लोगों को पड़ती है। हमारी मांग है कि ये जो प्राइसेस बढ़ती जा रही हैं, महंगाई बढ़ती जा रही है और जो पेट्रोल और डीजल के दाम बढ़ते जा रहे हैं, इनको सरकार कंट्रोल करे और पेट्रोल और डीजल के दाम बढ़ाना बंद करे। तो इसलिए हम सब यहाँ आए हैं। पूरे देश में हमारा प्रोटेस्ट चलेगा, काफ़ी दिनों के लिए चलेगा।
Today in protest to the exponential price rise of fuel and other essential commodities, Congress party along with other like-minded parties inside the parliament had staged and walkout so as to flag the attention of this government. But the government is posing totally adamant, indifferent and nonchalant to the poor state of the people of this country.
इस सरकार ने अपनी जन विरोधी नीतियों से बहुत बड़ा भार भारत की जनता पे डाला है। 30 लाख करोड़ रुपया पिछले 8 वर्ष में इन्होंने डीजल पर, पेट्रोल पर और आपके केरोसिन पर, एलपीजी पर कर लगा के इकट्ठा किया है। यूपीए की सरकार ने पेट्रोल को 55 रुपए पे और डीजल को 30 रुपए पे रखा था।
We are starting a nationwide agitation.
Yeah.
This is the first step. The second step is on 4th. Third step is 7th.
Right.
In front of the Raj Bhavan.
Right.
So we are starting a massive and continuous agitation program against the price rise.
Okay.
See that 26 lakhs crores of rupees collected from petrol and diesel.
Joining us on the broadcast right now is Vandana Hari, founder, Vanda Insights. Dr. Syed Nasir Hussain, MP Rajya Sabha, Congress, will also be joining us in just a bit. Raman Malik, leader of the BJP, live with us. Abhirup Sarkar, economist and member State Planning Commission, is also live with us this evening. Good evening to all of you. Thank you very much for joining us here on Urban Debate on Mirror Now. Vandana Hari, let me begin the discussion with you. You know, people here are suffering today because of this continuous increase in petrol and diesel prices. We've discussed it earlier too, because it was bound to happen given the spike in crude prices because of the prevailing condition that's there in Ukraine. Now, government says it can't really do much. So let's ask you, how soon can we expect the crude oil prices to go down?
Good evening, Hina. So the answer to that question is basically you have to project what is going to happen next in the Ukraine war situation, which is near impossible, right? So there has been a ray of hope in recent days. Ukraine and Russia have begun to negotiate, but those negotiations are also going to be difficult. There are going to be a lot of false dawns, false starts in it, which we are already seeing happening. So, you know, fundamentally, the oil market is tight. The demand continues to rebound. We can see all around us, COVID curbs are being relaxed. OPEC Plus had their latest meeting today. They decided to stick to their policy of just over 400,000 barrel per day hike. They're not even able to produce whatever they are committing to producing every month. So overall, this is an environment of good, strong rebound in demand, supply tightness. On top of that, you have other geopolitical problems. The CPC crude pipeline is out for a month. There's problems in Libya, Nigeria, and then you have the Ukraine situation. So unfortunately, Hina, I mean, I wish I could say there is light at the end of, there is light at the end of the tunnel, but I don't see a substantial drop in prices until Ukraine calms down.
Okay, so we all have to wait for the situation in Ukraine to calm down. Maybe then only we can expect some relief here in India. Raman Malik, so is the government only waiting for the international market to get better? We can't expect anything from the center or the states because it's the middle class which is getting impacted. I just gave you an example how for a person who rides a two-wheeler today, there has been about 12% increase in the monthly budget.
I fully do agree with it, but these situations and the way things are going, I fail to at times understand that, I still remember the time periods of 2007-8 when the oil touched 139 or 140 a barrel. Now, at that particular point, what had happened? yes, the fuel prices were at 84, 85, being sold 86, 87, those kind of rates in various places. But then there was something else which was happening. There was oil bonds happening. There was oil pool deficit. There was, Iran. There was a credit from Iran and things like that. So those all things happened. So nobody can say the burnt of the inflation did not get passed on to people. It was just this that earlier it used to be passed on in a manner which was camouflaged. Now, a non-subsidized cylinder under the UPA had also been sold at 1,200 rupees. So the fact remains that every time just doing petty politics is not what is required by the country. The fact remains that today, not just the crude, we are talking about metals. Metals have gone haywire. Probably 3 months back, the metal market used to be hovering between 40 and 45 for the steel and other iron products, the bars and tubes and other things. Today, it is hovering between 82 to 87 rupees, at times touching 90 also. So the inflation in the cost of construction is also coming in. So is the cement, so is other things, so is the aluminum. Now, when a war happens, there are certain implications to the supply chain of the world. Nobody can defy that. But yes, some people who have Jupiter's velocity can definitely defy it. Some people who have understanding of, I was, looking at various statements given by these learned people, then at that point of time, I only wish that they had given the same kind of statements and the logics that they provide to, in their debates openly, whether it is the parliament or whether it is an open discussion. They should come and say, what is the government doing wrong? They come and say that you are taking XYZ amount of central taxes. They do not talk about the VAT, number one. Number two, the same VAT, a lot of it, the same central taxes, through various forms is going back to the states, whether it is the highway, whether it is free ration, whether it is the healthcare mop-up that we are doing, whether it is the vaccinations. And to top it all, every other day, like just now also, if you would have seen a few days back, a chief minister of a party came into power in Punjab and he came out with a demand of 50,000 crore rupees every year. Now, please tell me that if you want good roads, if you want a good backbone of road, you want defense production, you want pharma industry to boom, you want startups to boom, you want infrastructure to go up, you want telecom to grow, and everything. And the government has to do all of those things. And yet you want that the taxes so collected, which out of the 14th Commission, Finance Commission directly said that 42% almost has to go back to the states. Now, please let me know, how would they manage it?
Okay, so you're saying that the high tax component is there because you need to fund the welfare schemes. Fair enough, that's an argument we've been hearing for a very, very long time. Abhirup Sarkar, the point is the hit to the common man can be lesser, if the government cuts what it earns from each litre. Do you think at least that can be done? Because this is a direct as well as an indirect impact on the middle class today. Direct via our monthly fuel budget and indirect via the rising inflation. The transportation cost is going up and the prices of other commodities is going up too. And the same money the government is using to, help fund the schemes for us. So it's us who are getting impacted.
Yeah, it's amply clear that there has been an international price shock. We can't do anything about it. That is absolutely clear. However, the question is whether the governments, both the central government as well as the state governments, can do something about it, can do something to ease the discomfort faced by the middle class and the poor people as well. Because as you said, if transportation costs go up, then prices of vegetables and all essential commodities are going to go up. So it's going to affect everyone. I think, in a limited sense, of course, the government can do something. First, the central government, as is well known, when international prices were down, the prices paid by the consumer were kept unchanged by increasing taxes. So now, when international prices are going up, government can at least reduce taxes to some extent. I mean, the central government. You see, there is a difference between the kind of tax the central government is imposing and the kind of tax the state governments are imposing. Central government is mainly imposing per unit tax. So it's, per liter tax. And the central government, I believe, can reduce that to some extent. The state governments, on the other hand, because the central government was already, taxing a lot. In fact, let me tell you, the total amount of revenue that the central government collects from petroleum is way above what the states together collect. So the central government can give some comfort, but the state governments, let us look at the state governments. The state governments actually have a VAT. Actually, they have an ad valorem tax. It's in percentage terms. So if the base price goes up, the percentage remaining constant, the total tax collected will go up. So there again, the state governments can actually reduce the percentage. I think instead of blaming each other, the state governments and the center, they can come together and, in a cooperative fashion, they can put a price decrease, and that will help the middle class, that will help the poor. I think it can be done, and we should be in a cooperative framework rather than blaming each other. So let us not make it a political issue. It's an economic issue, and a very serious one.
Well, absolutely. It's not a political issue. Let's not make it a political issue. It's an economic issue, and a very, very serious one, because it is impacting each one of us. Dr. Hussain, don't you think it's like a Robin Hood act, that's on by the government? They need to collect more taxes from each one of us so that they can fund the welfare schemes. But now, as the oil marketing companies are losing money, so they are being allowed to pass on the price hike to us. But when it was suiting the government during the election season, despite the rise in crude prices, the fuel prices in the country remain unchanged.
Ma'am,
good politics, terrible economics.
Ma'am, that is exactly what I, as a spokesperson of the Congress party and a member of parliament from the opposition party, would like to ask the government. I was hearing the argument from the representative of the Bharatiya Janata Party or the government. I don't know. Now I just want to put some things on record. See, during UPA times, the average per barrel international rate was something like something like $100 to $110 per barrel. That is the average. It went up to $130, $125, $135 per barrel at that time. Average was around 100, 110. During this government's time, the average is something like $50 to $60 per barrel. Then we gave fuel at the rate of 65, 70, 72, 55 and all. Now, if you look at the rate from 2014 till now, continuously the price of fuel is continuously increasing. This is point number one. So why is this not being explained? One. Two, now, as you say, the government should have had the guts and courage to say that the international price of crude oil is increasing. That is the reason we can't decrease the prices of fuel. But just because they were elections, they wanted to fool the people and the electorate in those 5 states. They decrease the rates of fuel, and then the moment the elections results are out, they started increasing. Every day it is increasing. For the past 10 days, I think it is increased 7 to 9 times. 2. Point number 3 is that we have been giving notices to the government. I am a member of Rajya Sabha. Even I have given a notice under Rule 267 of Rajya Sabha, and we are asking for a discussion. We want a discussion on inflation. We want a discussion on price rise. We want a discussion, and we want to know why is the government saying that it is only because of the international situation that these rates are increasing. And I should also tell you that we are buying only 1% of oil from Russia. And point number 4 about this
Can I come in, please?
social
Raman
security
Malik, one
net that-
second. Raman Malik, one second. Raman Malik, one
Just
second.
let me
Raman Malik, one second. Dr. Hussain, before I get Mr. Raman Malik to respond, okay, quickly finish your point. Quickly finish your point, sir.
And the last point is social welfare schemes. I was speaking in Parliament yesterday on labor, working of the Ministry of Labor and Employment. I pointed out how with all the labor welfare schemes, with all the schemes in the labor ministry, only 2 schemes were implemented 100% in last 1 year, and all other schemes, it was between 13.5% to 29% implementation. So what are you speaking about giving money to the poor? What are you speaking about the welfare schemes? Your schemes are big slogans, new scheme announcement, budgetary allocation is done, but by the end of the year, we're not spending that. 29% is the highest spent on the schemes in the labor ministry. And this is on record, I have spoken yesterday. So the point is,
Dr. Hussain, you've made your point. You've made your point, and Raman Malik also wants to respond. But before that, one second, Dr. Hussain, you've made your point. Raman Malik also wants to respond. 1 second, sir. 1 second. You know, Vandana Hari, you know, both the guests here from the BJP and the Congress party spoke about the condition of crude oil prices during the UPA era. And we all know it was the Congress party at that time that issued oil bonds, which was like mortgaging future for today. So can any political party claim to be holier than thou?
Look, Hina, with all due respect, I will not wade into the political party debate in India. But let me just throw a little bit of an international perspective on this. First of all, India is not alone. This is creating massive problems for all countries, emerging market economies, developed economies, European economies. Here in Asia, a country like Japan, which has a relatively high paying potential for the consumer, they are introducing subsidies. So, you know, what I think one needs to keep in mind, and especially in a country like India, is that unfortunately this situation does not look like it's going to resolve itself anytime soon. So what can you do? Can you bring in some measures temporarily to provide some relief to the consumers, especially the lower income strata? You know, that the government needs to do. And you mentioned, and my fellow speakers mentioned, taxes on fuel. So if they can be raised when prices are low, I don't see why they shouldn't be dropped a little bit when prices are relatively higher, especially the ad valorem taxes.
Okay, interesting. Interesting. Raman Malik, now, you know, keeping politics aside, as Vandana also mentioned, that this is the time that the situation needs some kind of attention because it's impacting each one of us. Can't the government look for other sources of revenue for some time and perhaps at least consider reducing excise on fuel so that in this time of uncertainty, there is some relief to the people?
See, regardless of the fact that the 2 of the highest retail prices of petrol in India today are in both Rajasthan and Maharashtra, and who has the power there, who controls the VAT is well known. I will not go there. But let's start with what the Congress spokesperson earlier in one of my debates and today the Congress MP has said. How does it impact when Russia only is supplying less than 1% of the fuel? Sir, I'll tell you how it impacts. The volatility in the global price of crude is impacted by the wars. And when it happens, then the inflation is always there. Today, for your information, the Western countries, which had a leverage in oil, are retailing oil at an average price of $1.37 to $1.42 per liter. If you convert that to Indian rupees, you will get to know what is the retail price. Also, let me also tell you, this is the same government who is battling international sanctions which were being threatened over to India. And yet they are negotiating about $35 or 35% less price than the pre-war prices from Russia, and that too in ruble rupee trade. So that is also a very major thing that is happening to bring down the inflation towards the oil. Not to forget, whether we are talking about the schemes, the Labharthis.
The bottom line is, Raman Malik, that the government is not going to even consider lowering. Mr. Raman Malik, I asked you a direct question. Let's not make it a political debate. You know, I have two experts on oil also on my show because I want I want to understand the economics of this issue, whether there is potential to bring relief to the people or not. I gave you time to make your point. I asked you a straight question. As Vandana mentioned, that, you know, something needs to be done.
You must understand.
So, I asked you a question. Why don't you respond to that, Mr. Raman Malik?
I am responding to the question, and the answer is going to be what I have to give, not what you want me to give. So let's understand the basic thing. The people of this country, about 30 crore, 35 crore plus people, have given a verdict just of late stating that the DBTs or the food or the medical attention or the hospital creations that the government has done in the time, which was impacting the basic people who are needy, who want the government to work for them, has shown Congress where they stand. But the basic question remains today is, a US, which is such a big an economy, cannot go past 25 million, they cannot go past 25 crore people for vaccination. We've already done about 190 crore plus vaccinations. We are feeding, for the last 1 year, we are feeding about 80 crore people. Now, my question here to your debate is, this inflation has to be controlled, yes. But what about a matured economy like US, which is facing above 6.5% of inflation for the last entire year? What would the financial expertise of the Congress MP say on that?
Mr. Malik, you know, the point still remains the same. Government's India First stand clearly is being appreciated. Nobody's doubting it. Government keeps talking about funding, you know, welfare schemes from high levels, but the fuel hike is defeating the very purpose. The beneficiaries of welfare schemes do not really realize when they receive some benefits, they actually paid more. So एक pocket से वो निकालते हैं पैसा, आपको tax देते हैं, दूसरी pocket में उनको वो पैसा मिलता है via the welfare schemes. That is why I said it's like a Robin Hood act that the government seems to be doing. Dr. Nasir Hussain.
Yeah. See, first of all, he has still not explained how the UPA government used to sell fuel at a lower rate, but the international market rates were very high. He has still not explained. Point number one. Point number two, you are speaking about welfare schemes.
Mr. Raman Malik, let's have a civil debate, please.
See, ma'am, if Vanna ji has already explained about the facts on the oil bonds, and
Mr. Raman Malik, let the other guest also speak. Let's have a civil debate, please. I gave you time to respond. Let others also speak. Yes, yeah. Dr. Hussain.
Ma'am. So we are still discussing budget in the parliament. I want the BJP spokesperson to tell the country on which welfare scheme have they increased budget. Manrega, Manrega is one important scheme which rescued this government during the COVID times, and they have decreased the funds there by about 20-25%. They have given just 54,000 crores, 73,000 crores, 98,000 crores have been spent in the last year. 73,000 crores have been allotted now, and in that 73,000 crores, 18,000 crores is pending bills. So, and I told you yesterday I spoke on, in all these schemes, one, they have not implemented all these schemes in toto in the last 1 year, and they have decreased on all the welfare schemes. And the finance minister of the country, in Parliament has clearly said that they are using all the funds for capital expenditure and not much on welfare scheme. And they say that capital expenditure will give more jobs. That is
okay. Now, coming back to the issue of fuel prices, that we are discussing tonight, I want to give the last word now to Vandana Hari and Abhirup Sarkar. And let's quickly talk about 2 or 3 things that the government can immediately do. Vandana, like you mentioned, we don't know for how long uncertainty is going to continue, given the current circumstances, because it is a source of revenue for both center as well as states. What are the few things you think government can consider doing to give relief to the middle class?
So look, I am personally, I feel fuel subsidies is a wasteful expenditure of money. And it's very good that India gradually over the years has moved away from blanket fuel subsidies. Very few countries in the world have managed to successfully implement fuel subsidies that are differentiated by income levels. So, it is not the easiest thing to do, but perhaps it is something worth looking at. A little bit like what India used to have in terms of rationed, you would get sugar and rice and so on a ration card basis, something like that. I don't know how practical or how quickly this can be implemented. But, when prices are at current levels and inflation is hurting the common man's pocket from all directions, as I said earlier, and I would probably just say that again, is that dropping the taxes for a little while is worth doing. And finally, look, the Russian foreign minister is visiting India, right? Or I don't know if he's already in the country or he's due to arrive in the country. I presume one of the things he's going to ask India is to buy more Russian crude. Now, while that certainly should be looked at, there's one more thing on a very diplomatic level, government to government, that you can do. You can tell him to stop the war in Ukraine. It's absolutely India's right, and like any other country, is to point out the pain it is spreading all over the world. This is no longer just between the NATO allies and Russia, and it's not just Ukraine and Russia that are suffering. The whole world is paying the price for it.
Absolutely. We don't know when will the war stop, but let's also get Abhirup Sarkar to respond to the first suggestion that you gave, Vandana. Dropping the taxes for, some time would be wiser. Do you also agree that can be considered at the central level?
Yeah, you see, that can certainly be considered. Whenever we talk about dropping taxes, people talk about, welfare schemes getting affected. No, that's not the correct way of thinking, I think. In the last budget, very rightfully, our finance minister talked about infrastructural spending. And infrastructure was supposed to be, that kind of spending was supposed to be at the center of the economy, creating jobs, creating multiplier effects, and so on and so forth. Now, if there is inflation, that kind of multiplier effect is not going to work. Why? Because if there is inflation, people's purchasing power will be curtailed. And so, even if you spend on infrastructure, you are not going to get the desired multiplier effect. So, I think it's time to curtail a little bit on infrastructure. That can wait. This is an emergency. So, first attend to the emergency, reduce taxes, and reduce infrastructure spending for the moment. Later, when things ease out, you can infrastructure spending again. But now, instead of curtailing welfare schemes, one can certainly reduce infrastructural spending a little bit and pay more attention to, controlling oil prices. That is very important to check inflation.
Right. Those are some interesting suggestions you both have given to us. I appreciate all of you. Thank you very much for joining us here on this debate on Mirror Now this evening. And we can also hope that instead of a political model of economics, if we create an economic model for economics, maybe something like this will not really happen again. With this, we will slip into a very, very short break. But on the other side, we'll tell you what is going to happen in Maharashtra from 2nd of April. Stay with us.